Dear Lindsey German, convener of the Stop the War Coalition, thanks for joining us today.
You're very welcome. It's good to see you.
Thank you, Lindsey. So, our main topic today is about the Kurdish question and the isolation on Kurdish leader Mr. Abdullah Öcalan. So, first of all, what are your concerns about the current treatment of Abdullah Öcalan in İmralı Island prison? It's been more than 41 months. There has been nothing heard from him. We have done many interviews with you about this topic as well, but nothing has been changed yet. So, what is your concerns with this unchanged situation about Öcalan?
Well, it's a very, very serious situation. We hear a great deal about the rule of law, about international rules-based community. We hear about freedom of expression. But of course, in the case of Öcalan, and not just him, but he's one of the most high-profile prisoners in the Middle East. And it seems to me that what's happened to him is totally unjustifiable, that he's classed as a terrorist. And of course, they class anybody who works for freedom for Kurdistan, for independence for Kurdistan. They treat anybody who does this as a terrorist. He's classed as that. He doesn't have any legal rights. He doesn't have access to people who want to talk to him and who he might be able to talk to. He's not able to communicate. This is a basic denial of his rights, and it's something that should make Turkey and the Turkish government a pariah. But of course, their policy on this is supported by a whole range of other countries, and it's unlikely that they will do anything to help free Öcalan. So this is a task for the rest of us that we have to try to take up.
Thank you, Lindsay. As you mentioned, Mr. Öcalan is a bit high profile prisoner, basically. So just to make it little deeper, why is Abdullah Öcalan is an important figure? Do you think he has a key role to play for the peace in the Middle East, and why?
Well, of course, he's a symbol of Kurdish resistance and Kurdish struggle. And this is why, essentially, he is being kept in prison and kept unable to communicate with people for so long. And of course, it's an attempt to deny the reality of the Middle East, which is that actually there does have to be peace in the Middle East. That requires justice and freedom and equality for all. It requires an end to national oppression, as obviously the Kurds suffer very, very badly, but so do the Palestinians and other groups. It requires an end to the oppressive regimes which dominate the Middle East. It requires proper, genuine democracy in the Middle East. And of course, all of these we're a very long way away from. So Öcalan plays this role because he's a high-profile figure and because he represents the views of many, many people, of the Kurdish people and many, many other people as well. And this is why he has an importance beyond just as an individual.
Thank you. What has been the impact of his ideas as contained in numerous books on the politics of Turkey, the Kurdish movement, the wider Middle East region, and the international arena as well? Because many people are saying his ideas are based on peaceful world as well as the equal democratic confederal system. So what do you think about his ideas and the impact of his ideas?
Well, I think if we look at this in a slightly broader way, we can see over history there's a whole number of people who've been classified as somehow not acceptable, promoting terrorist ideas. This was said about Nelson Mandela in South Africa for many years. It was said about Gerry Adams and other people in Ireland for many, many years. It's been a view that has been put on national liberation movements, something that's encouraged by the oppressor, which obviously they want people to see these people as somehow illegitimate. But of course, when you look at all of those people, and you could talk about many more as well, their ideas have been about national liberation, about freedom for their own people, but also of a world where there'll be much more freedom in general across society. And it is precisely this that the governments of the world don't like, and that they're frightened of, and they feel threatened by. So it's those sorts of issues that we have to look at when we're looking at the situation with the Kurdish people and with Öcalan in particular.
Thank you, Lindsay. As I mentioned earlier about the 69 Nobel laureates, there are signed a common letter asking for freedom for Öcalan and break the isolation. And they sent this letter to UN, ECHR, and institutions of EU, as well as the European Council as well. So how important do you think this action, because these 69 people are as well as important people, and also in a political way, they have impact on the large number of peoples as well. So how do you evaluate that, and what else needs to be done to break this isolation? Because the isolation responsible institutions are European Commission as well as the ECHR. So you are experienced with Mandela's campaign as well. So what is your point of view about it? How important that Nobel laureates came together?
I think it's very significant. 69 Nobel laureates is a large number of people. They'll come from all sorts of different backgrounds and nationalities and different disciplines that they're specialized in. So, and they're people who in general are highly respected around the world. And they are saying that this man should be freed. He should be treated as a political figure and not as a criminal, as he is being done at the moment. So I think that's a very significant thing, and it's important. But we also ought to remember that when you talk about the European Commission, you talk about these people, to be perfectly frank, these people have been complicit in wars, in criminalizing migrants, in doing deals with Turkey in order to keep migrants out of Europe, and of course in designating groups as terrorist groups, such as the PKK. So, they are part of the problem and not part of the solution. Now, we should keep sending these letters. We should do everything we can to put pressure on these people. But I think we also have to recognize that what has brought this issue into the mainstream political agenda has been the actions of the Kurds themselves and the support that they have around the world. And it seems to me this is the key way that we need to keep campaigning for justice for the Kurdish people and for Öcalan as well.
Thank you, Lindsay. As I understand and as I'm experienced as well, the Stop the War Coalition is one of the most important peaceful and peace seeker coalition in the world right now. And with the Palestine issue, Stop the War Coalition has done great work, and you involved in this as well. But what we understand is also the Palestinian and as well as the Israeli issue is also a part of the Middle East question, the Middle East problem. So how do you relate this with the Kurdish question as well as this Palestinian-Israeli war problem? Do you think there is some relation, and do you really think if Öcalan would be free, can be block these wars as well, because his ideas and his the position of seeking peace? Do you think that would be helpful to at least stop the war in that way?
Yeah, I think it would be very helpful for him to play that role, and obviously, if he were free, he would be playing that role. But I think we also have to look at the Middle East as a whole. We know that it has been dominated first by the imperialist powers of Europe, particularly France and Britain, which controlled very large parts of the Middle East, including Britain had the mandate for Palestine in the years between the two world wars. Since then, of course, we've also had US imperialism, which plays a very, very major role, a central role in defending Israel, in supporting and sustaining Israel, in providing it with weapons. And of course, these things are all related. The whole way in which the Kurds were treated after the First World War, after the collapse of the Ottoman Empire, was to deny them their own national homeland, to carve up these countries in a way which suited the imperialists and which suited the way in which they could extract the major resources, particularly oil, that they wanted to extract. And today we see it not just with the resources, the raw materials that they want to extract, but also, of course, a very, very close relationship between arms sales and arms provision in the Middle East, not just with Israel, with the Saudis, with Turkey, with all of these. Turkey, of course, plays an important role as a member of NATO. It's not allowed into the EU for racist reasons. It's not allowed to play a full role in Europe, but it is allowed to be one of the major military powers in the region. And in exchange for Turkey providing that important security for NATO, it's allowed to repress its own people and to behave in the way that it does behave. So these things are all very, very much connected, and freedom for the Palestinians, I'm sure, would lead to freedom for the Kurds, and vice versa. These are very, very connected struggles.
Thank you, Lindsay. That was very clear and to the point. Thank you very much
Good.
for that. Lastly, shortly, anything else I didn't ask? Anything you would like to add on about this frame, about the Öcalan's situation, which is the most important one, because it's been more than 41 months, as I already mentioned. Nothing has been heard from him, and this is like solitary confinement. And it's also a incommunicado, so it's kind of a torture. What would you like to add on lastly? Anything I didn't ask?
Well, it's inhumane treatment. It's like the treatment of people in Guantanamo Bay. It's like the treatment of Mustafa Barghouti in the Palestinian in Israeli jails. It's like all these different political prisoners. It's like the treatment of Mandela. I mean, these were people who they're put in solitary confinement. They're denied a voice. They're denied the ability to say what they think, to communicate with their families, their friends, their comrades. They're denied all of this. And it's a fundamental attempt to stop their ideas getting out there. And it's a great credit to the movement that they don't succeed in stopping these ideas from getting out there. They don't succeed in getting rid of the movement, that the movement still continues. And we have to keep fighting for that.
Thank you, dear Lindsey German, convener of the Stop the War Coalition. Thanks for joining us, and thank you for your valuable comments.
Thank you very much, Erem. Thanks for inviting me.